First things first, you have to realize that the Matrix is a lie. The system is a lie. The Matrix movie is about using the masses' body heat to power the system. Our system runs off human ignorance. People have been dumbed down and led to believe in this system, in this game. And the people that get rich are the people that realize it's all a lie. The things that they're telling you are not because they're for your benefit. They don't tell you the correct things because it's for their own benefit. And the average person has no idea how much they've been lied to. It's all a scam. And when you realize that, you can actually break free of the system, you can get rich and create your own financial freedom, because money just becomes a tool in order for you to have freedom. The reality is very few people are free in the world, very few. The data is endless. Average American, richest country in the world, is saving 3% of their income. Average person can't come up $500 for an emergency. 97% of people are not able to retire on time, and they end up depending on the state or a family member to take care of them. And so money becomes a tool that actually sets you free. Once you realize it's all a lie, just do the math. If you're told to go get a degree, $70,000 a year, you're in big debt, and then you can get a job, $50K a year, a good job, and then do your 401k, and one day you're gonna be retired millionaire when you're 70. It's all a lie. Just do the math, and you'll see that if you keep doing what you're doing, there's a good chance you won't break out of the financial slave system that they've set up. Now, think about it like this. The average American makes $50,000 a year. Let's just be really nice and let's pretend that you make 100, right? So let's say you make 100, about half of that's gonna go back in taxes, so you're left with 50. Let's say you live in a really cheap area and you pay $2,000 in rent or mortgage for the rest of your life. That's about $25K a year. So you already are stuck with only $25K left. If you have children, you wanna travel, you want some semblance of freedom, you really actually have to get rich, and $100,000 isn't going to get you there. Now, it may seem very difficult, but that's because the system's designed that way. But it's actually not that difficult. And there is a process to do it. But the way in order to tap into that begins with realizing the whole thing is a lie. Do the math and see, are you on the right track or not? And if you're not, no problem. Now you have higher awareness and you can start to create financial freedom. Now that you've done the math and you realize the whole thing's a lie, find out what your limiting beliefs are and then reprogram them. For example, when I found out the whole system was a lie, I was a freshman in college. I realized I was gonna drop out of school after I was in economics class. I raised my hand, I asked my teacher why we can't audit the Federal Reserve. What are we gonna do about this ever increasing debt and the devaluation of currency? And he tells me to shut up. I'm like, this guy's not gonna teach me how to get rich. This person's not gonna teach me how to create financial freedom. I realized the whole thing's a lie. And I decided I'm gonna backpack around the world, drop out of college, become an author, and become an entrepreneur as an author and a speaker and internet entrepreneur. But I ran into all of these limiting beliefs. One of them was I wasn't smart enough because I was conditioned to think you have to go to school. But how many times have you pulled up at a gas station and someone's in a really nice car, or you walk through a really nice neighborhood, and you're like, how'd you get this nice house? How'd you get this nice car? How do you travel around the world? Nobody says, well, because I got a degree. They say, because I did it my own way. They started to think for themselves. So that was my first limiting belief. The second one was that I thought I was too young, because I was 19, 20 years old. And the third one was that it was too hard to make money. Once I realized what all three of these belief systems were, they could no longer control me. Sigmund Freud used to say, once you make the unconscious conscious, you're free from it. So I have a free success hypnosis, a free financial success hypnosis. It's right there down below, pinned to the comments and in the description. You can get it for free, and you can start to use it to reprogram those limiting beliefs that you've inherited from the rat race, from the matrix, from the slave system. And it's designed that way on purpose because the system only continues to run if we keep producing people that cannot break free from it. But now you know the truth. After that, you have to start to separate your time from money directly so that you move into the rich people's playing field. You've realized the system's a lie. You realize what you've been told isn't going to make you free. You've done the math yourself. You've found out what your limiting beliefs are behind your own self-worth around wealth and success. Then the next is the strategy. And the reality is, unless you divorce yourself from trading time for money directly, you're on the slow lane to financial success. You never meet a guy or a woman that's in this epic car and epic house and they're living their dream life and you know they're super rich and they're like, yeah, I got a job for $15 an hour and I got rich. There's nothing wrong with that, but you have to realize that if you keep doing the same thing, you're gonna get the same results. And the way that you do this is to stop trading your time for money directly. And that means you become an entrepreneur. Your focus begins to be solving people's problems as opposed to trading your time for money and filling up that lot of time. I had a couple kids, they were about maybe 7 recently, come knock on my door. And they knocked on the door and I don't really like answering the door. And so I'm like peeping through and I open it because there's a couple kids and they go, hey, can we mow your lawn? I said, well, I already have a guy that mows my lawn that I pay, but what are you charging? $5. $5? Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you know what it means to be an entrepreneur? And there's 2 kids. One of them's a little bit more dorky and he raises his hand really quick after the kid next to him's like, and the dorky kid's like, an entrepreneur is someone that goes into a business for themselves. And I'm like, brilliant, kid. But here's the real definition. An entrepreneur is someone who solves people's problems at a profit. Does that make sense? Tell me what an entrepreneur is. So he repeats it back to me. And then I say back to him, do you want to be rich? What do you want your money for? He tells me he wants to buy a new PlayStation. See, so you guys both want to be rich, right? Yeah, we want to be rich. Okay, the way that you get rich is how? Become an entrepreneur. They say, what's an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is someone who solves people's problems at a profit. So I say, okay, now if you guys go knock on 100 doors and you guys can finish in 10 or 15 minutes per door and you charge 10 instead of 5, how much money you got? And I'm going through it and they're like, oh, their head's turning. I say, okay, I've got a person to do my lawn, but I'll tell you what, you come back on Saturday at 9 a.m. and do my lawn. I'll be right back. I go back inside and I come back and I give each of the kids a $20 bill. And I say, here. And they're like, oh my God, because they were charging $5 and they were gonna split it. And I say, the reason I'm giving you this money is because I am rewarding you for becoming an entrepreneur. I want you to remember, because this dude just gave you $20 each, you must remember now, more money will be given to you if you become an entrepreneur. And their mouths drop open. I say, okay, see ya on Saturday in the morning. I close the door and I stand by the door and I can hear them yelling with excitement. But I think they'll remember. When you become an entrepreneur and you solve people's problems and you forget about trading your time for money and you build a system where you're not directly trading your time for money by solving people's problems, you can get rich. Now, once you've done all of that and you followed those previous 4 steps, the next is what's your sense of urgency and what's your why? Because if you don't have big enough motivation behind it, you're going to go back into your comfort zone. So it could be your children or it could be the world economy. You have to find something bigger than yourself. And if you want good motivation on why you should get rich right now, let's take inflation. Let's say it's 10% per year and you make $50,000 a year for the rest of your life because you do what the system tells you to do. And the truth is, if you do the math, you're gonna lose 100% of your purchasing power in the next 10 years. Your income's gonna remain the same at 50,000, but your purchasing power is going to be cut in half because 10% per year over 10 years, all of a sudden your money's gone. And this is the trick that the matrix or the system sets up that keeps people from ever getting rich. So they're told, get a job for 50K, for 75K, find something stable, whatever it is, take 1% of your income and put it in your 401k. And if you do this compound effect calculator, you're gonna be worth $7 million when you're 86 years old. But the reality is the data tells us that doesn't even work to begin with because the vast amount of people aren't able to retire. In addition to that, I'd rather have money when I was young, wouldn't you? Or just whatever age you are, you'd rather have it quick than wait 40 more years to do so. So you've got to find a reason why. My why is my kids. I want to, by the time that I'm 31, by the time that I'm 35 to 40, I want to be totally financially independent and maintain my existing lifestyle so that I can homeschool my kids myself. I want to do it. I want to do it. And so that's one of my whys. Another one of my whys is just doing the math on the financial system, doing the math on inflation, doing the math on the cost of living, just purely because if you stay where you are, you're actually going backwards in terms of your purchasing power. So find out what your why is bigger than yourself. Think about it every day. Write it down on a piece of paper so you can read it. And then you get the motivation necessary to break your consciousness away from the matrix, from the slave system, from the control grid that is programming you to believe you aren't good enough, you aren't smart enough, it's too hard, the rich people have all the money, you don't know how to do it. None of that is true. And if you need help, download my free success hypnosis. It's jakeshypnosis.com. It's my free success hypnosis to reprogram your subconscious mind. Because you've got all these belief systems you don't even know you have. Psychologists say 95% of our life is subconscious. We have 65,000 thoughts in a day, according to a Harvard University study. 95% of them are subconscious. So think about everything you've inherited from society, right? Think about it. It's designed that way, designed to keep you in a box because you have to stay in the box so that the people that aren't in the box can continue to live their dream life. And so they built it this way. So you think it's too hard, so you don't know how, so you think you've got to go to Harvard, so you think you got to have this great network, so you think you've got to have all this money to get started, so you think you're too old, so you think you're too young, so you think you're not ready. All of it is BS. And if you can realize there's an endless amount of money out there, and there's an endless amount of ideas out there, but there's not an endless amount of courage out there for the people that are willing to break away from the system, realize it's a lie, and start to take their own potential seriously. I mean, what do you think you're actually capable of? If you realize the whole thing's a lie, if you do the math, if you set a new goal, if you find your reasons why, and you become an entrepreneur, stop trading your time for money, and break away from the system. Get started today. Download my free success hypnosis, jakeshypnosis.com, pin in the comments and in the description. If you're ready to get rich, comment down below. It is time. And if you're not sold on this video yet as being the video that changes your life, please pull out a calculator right now. Take the amount of money you made for the last 3 years and average it out. Let's say you made $100,000 last year, $50,000 the year before, and $100,000 the year before. Add all three of those up, divide them by 3. Now you've got your median income level. Your median income level, then you take and you do the math on 50% of it going to the government for taxes for the rest of your life. Then you do the math on the rate of inflation over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years, and you will see that it is a quicksand mirage that you have been socially conditioned to be stuck in. But here's the thing. You can break out of it because you're smarter than you think.